This is Sid Roth saying, I have a vision. Now is the set time to blow the trumpet in Zion.
Blow a trumpet in Zion, sounding on the mountain. Blow a trumpet in Zion, for the day of the Lord is come.
Shalom, Mishpacha. Shalom, family. Mishpacha is a Hebrew word. It means family. And we're the Mishpacha, the family with a Jewish heart, made up of Jewish and non-Jewish people that are one new man in the Messiah, getting ready, Mishpacha, to blow the grandest shofar, or the grandest trumpet in Zion. We want everyone everywhere to hear the good news. We want everyone everywhere to be red hot for the Messiah. What happens when you're married, you have an LPN background, you're a nurse, and then you could take some advanced studies, you become a psychiatric nurse, and then you're called on the mission field. And in June 1995, my guest, Shirley Smith, I'm speaking to at her home in North Little Rock, Arkansas, came back from the mission field. She had a bladder infection. It was about time for her yearly checkup, and she went to the doctor and had no idea what the doctor's report was going to be. What was it, Shirley?
Well, like you say, I returned home and went for a checkup, and when the doctor checked me, he found a very tiny little rectal mass about the size of a split pea, half of the size of a split pea, which is a little tiny green pea, and only a skillful hand could have detected that. So I knew that was God already beginning to orchestrate and intervene in my behalf. And then after he found this little small rectal mass, he said, I really believe this is endometriosis. And so he requested exploratory surgery. And so just to look around to see really what it was. And so 3 days later, I went into the hospital, and he found third stage ovarian cancer.
Now, for those that aren't that familiar, what does third stage ovarian cancer mean?
Okay. It is an advanced stage of cancer. Fourth stage means that it's totally metastasized all over your entire body. So mine was, in fact, I think, technically speaking, it really was between third and fourth. But we say third. But this meant that it had metastasized to or spread to my intestines and other structures of my body.
What was the prognosis on such a horrible statement of what was going on?
His prognosis was that I had 6 months to live with chemotherapy. Possibly I had about 35% chance to live 12 months, and that was the prognosis.
That is, it's one thing to preach healing. It's another thing to get a sentence like that out of the blue from a doctor. The last thing you expected. What went on inside of Shirley Smith at that moment?
Well, he said he just took out all he could and sewed me up and left the rest. And what was going on inside of me at that time is I'm thinking medically as a nurse. I'm thinking, he's left a lot in there. And I'm I'm trying to deal with the sentence of death spoken over me, which happened at my birth when I was born, but I've not heard a sentence like that since. And I was astounded when I heard these words. I can't explain.
You almost died when you were born?
I was born too rapidly. The doctor who delivered me gave my mother too much medication. And I was born without hardly any oxygen. I was very black and with no oxygen in my body. When he removed me from my mother's body, he threw me across the room in the air and said, "This SOB is dead." He cursed me with death and said, "Leave her alone and just let her die." So the curse of death, has been over me.
Well, not only that, it's been over a number of members of your family that have actually died from cancer.
Right. And there's been 17 people die on my mother's side with malignancy. And I was thinking, you know, my mind began to think on these things. But I was thinking, wait. I'm trying to deal. I'm going into denial, in and out, and I'm going into reality. And it was very difficult at that time. And I'm thinking, now, didn't he say that he only wanted to do exploratory? And didn't he say that he thinks it's only going to be endometriosis? And I thought, this cannot be true. He has made a mistake. And so here I am in denial again. And then I thought, well, you know, I have felt good except for the fatigue I've had recently. But, you know, I connected that fatigue with the missionary trip because we'd worked long, hard hours for 30 straight days in the intense heat of the jungles doing medical clinics and evangelizing at night. So I didn't really, you know, think I was sick. But after the surgery, you know, I was in bed now with all these tubes coming out of my body. I was moving in and out of consciousness. And what I began to feel again was when I awakened, I heard conversation around my bed. And they were saying, she has cancer, she has 6 months to live, 12 months possibly with chemo. And I'm thinking, am I having a nightmare? Is this really real? Am I dreaming? What is going on? But I began to think. You see, I was kind of going in and out, and so my thoughts were repetitious many times. But I was thinking about the 17 people who had died with cancer, and I knew that it was a generational curse. So I had prayed many times about this. And my mom had been touched by this breast cancer 22 years ago. Of course, she's been fine ever since. But I became overwhelmed, as I recall the history of the family. And then I would remember, you know, I had the silent killer. I had the third stage of it. And I was just trying to deal with all of this. And then I began to try to reason and deal with God like many people do in those situations. And so, you know, I began to just give him my pedigree. And I said, my ministry profile, and I said, Lord, you know, I've just done so much for the kingdom of God, and I've been very fruitful. I've been very faithful in ministry the past 30 years, and I've been a good girl. But you know what? I'm just really ready to check out. Because if I die, I'm yours. And if I live, I'm yours. But I am willing, Lord, to do whatever pleases you. And that was my bottom line statement to the Lord. Whatever pleases you, I'm willing to do it. And I also begin to remember and say to him, I know that my destiny is not finished because I have many callings on my life. I also remembered prophetic words that had been spoken over my life that had not been fulfilled. And I knew that I had to fight. And I remembered in the midst of all of this that 1 Timothy 1:18 said, when Paul spoke to Timothy, he said, Son Timothy, according to the prophecies that went forth over you by them, war a good war fight.
You know, it's kind of interesting. Just last night, I heard an evangelist say, we are to fight sickness just the way we fight sin. And we are to really be aggressive in this. Isn't this, in effect, what was going on within you, Shirley?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But, you know, I thank God because I'm a fighter by nature, and I've done spiritual warfare for a number of years, and I teach spiritual warfare, and I've just had a lot of experience in that, you know, spiritually speaking. But even in the natural, being raised in violence, I was a fighter for survival.
What do you mean, raised in violence?
Well, I was raised in a non-Christian home, and my father was under the control of a very violent spirit with manifesting rages and violence and abuse that we lived in for 19 years, my sister and I, along with my mom. And I just knew, you know, you had to fight for survival. So I learned to fight at a very young age. I learned to fight, I guess, at birth. Because he told me then, you know, that I would not live, I would die. And so.
But by the way, even though the doctor said you could have a few more months if you would have the chemotherapy, did you try it?
Actually, I did. It was not my desire. It was not really my choice, personal choice. But I began to be pressured to take this. My family, especially my mom, was very hysterical with this and very emotional, begging me to take this to extend my life. Maybe there was hope. Maybe I could make it. And both doctors, told me the same thing, and they began to coerce me, take the chemo, take the chemo. My husband, thank God, said, Shirley, I'll stand with you on your decision. Whatever you say, I'm not going to pressure you. Whatever you decide to do, I will stand with you. And being a nurse myself, I knew what chemo does to the body. So I flatly refused to take the chemo. Well, that didn't satisfy family or oncologists or friends, so they continued to pressure me and pressure me. And so one day the doctor said to me, the oncologist said to me, well, listen, Shirley, I have a natural substance made from a yew tree, and it's very successful with ovarian. I can give you this substance. And so under pressure with everybody, I agreed for only one chemo treatment. This was I want to make this point to the audiences. I had one chemo treatment only. I had a double dose, and I was extremely, highly allergic to this substance. They put me back in under IV again and tried to flush me for 4 days and 4 nights to get this out of my system. This substance is pure poison. It was to my system. It felt like hot liquid fire flowing through every part. I could feel it when it went through every joint, every muscle, through all my major organs, through my system, when it went into my brain, when it went into my ears. My ears was extreme pain. My body would jerk and convulse on the bed from the pain of this thing. I had my mouth bled, my gums bled. Inside my stomach was very raw. When I urinated, I had when it was like liquid fire. It was the most horrible thing I've ever experienced in my life. My immune system was knocked out. My hair fell out. I lay at death's door for 9 days. And that was my one and only chemo treatment.
Okay, medically speaking, there's nothing that can be done. You're told you have 6 months to live. What did you do about it?
Well, after I came out of the chemo, the battle started for my life. It started in the arena of my mind. That's where the battle is. That's where the battle is. And I just made a declaration to my family, and I said, listen, I have tried it your way, and it don't work for me. It might work for others. It don't work for me. I almost died from it. Now leave me alone. It's my body. It's my decision, and I'm going to make my own decision. And now it's between just me and Jesus from now on. And at that moment, I just made a quality choice. It's me and the Lord. And I have to say, it's an awesome feeling when you just abandon yourself to God in the face of death.
Shirley, our time is up. We'll pick up right here on tomorrow's broadcast. Mishpucha, do you know someone that is battling cancer right now? Shirley had a miracle, and she wrote a booklet that explains the miracle, explains exactly what God told her to do. That booklet, plus this week's sharing on audio cassette, $10 postage paid.
If you would like to receive a complimentary copy of our bi-monthly teaching newsletter, cassette catalog, or information about becoming Mishpucha, write to me, Sid Roth, Post Office Box 1918, Brunswick, Georgia, 31521. Or call our order-only line, 1-800-548-1918. To place a credit card order, call anytime, 1-800-548-1918. For all other calls, the number is 912-265-2500. That's 912-265-2500. For a cassette tape of this week's broadcast, send $5 to Sid Roth, Post Office Box 1918, Brunswick, Georgia, 31521. Look us up on the web, www.sidroth.org. That's www.sid